You know all those empty shops you see on the high street? What if they were the key to solving our housing crisis? Well, today we're going to talk about something called Class MA. It's a planning tool that's set to completely change our town centers. Let's dive in and see exactly how it works. Just look at this number for a second. 6,000. That's how many shops have closed down for good across the UK in just the last 5 years. It's a huge number, and it just confirms what we all feel when we walk down our high streets. They're really struggling. But you know, where there's a crisis, there's often an opportunity. All of that empty space, it begs a really big question. Could we actually use these buildings to create the new homes we so desperately need? Now, to understand why the solution is such a big deal, we first have to get a handle on the problem itself. So let's take a quick look at the state of our high streets.
Honestly, it's been a perfect storm. We're all shopping online more, and at the same time, business rates have been soaring. For so many shops, cafes, and offices, it's just not possible to keep the lights on anymore. And what's left behind is this trail of empty buildings right in the heart of our communities.
So what's the big idea to fix this? Well, this is where Class MA enters the picture. It's basically the government's answer to turning these empty spaces into vibrant places to live. Put simply, Class MA is a kind of planning shortcut. Think of it like a fast-track pass. It lets developers change certain commercial buildings into homes without having to go through the full, often really complicated and slow planning permission process. And what's really fascinating is just how many types of buildings this applies to. We're not just talking about your little corner shop. No, this Class C category is massive. It covers everything from restaurants and offices to gyms, health centers, and even some light industrial units. Now, this tool has been around for a little while, but in 2024, everything changed. There was a major update that turned Class MA from just a useful idea into an absolute game changer for our towns and cities. Yeah, March 5th, 2024. That's the key date. It's when the government basically put Class MA on steroids, getting rid of two of the biggest roadblocks that were stopping larger, more ambitious conversion projects. And the scale of this change is just huge. Before March 2024, you had a size limit, 1,500 square meters, and the building had to have been empty for at least 3 months. Now, both of those restrictions are just gone, wiped away completely. So what does this actually mean in the real world? Well, it means the gloves are well and truly off. We are now talking about converting entire buildings. You know those huge empty department stores or old supermarkets that have become sad landmarks in our town centers? Yep, they are now prime candidates for becoming new homes. Okay, now before you start drawing up plans for that empty cafe on your street, it's really important to know this isn't a total free-for-all. It's a shortcut for sure, but there are still some rules and checkpoints. So you don't need full planning permission, but you do have to get something called prior approval from your local council. It's a much more streamlined process, but it gives them a chance to check that the plan is okay and doesn't create any major problems. So to even be eligible, the property has to tick a few boxes. First, it needs to have been a Class E property for at least 2 years straight. And once you get the go-ahead, you've got 3 years to get the conversion finished. And of course, some of our most protected places are totally off limits. You can't use Class MA on listed buildings, in national parks, or in areas that are scientifically important. It's just common sense, really. These places are protected for a reason. But here's a really interesting and crucial exception. Turns out, Class MA conversions are allowed inside conservation areas. This is a massive deal for our beautiful historic towns, although the council will take a much closer look, especially at ground floor changes, to make sure the area's character is protected. So, when you send your application in for prior approval, what's the council actually checking? Well, they're looking at things like the impact on traffic, any risk of flooding or contamination, and noise from nearby businesses. And very importantly, they'll make sure every single habitable room will get enough natural light. Now, councils do have one last trump card up their sleeve. If they decide that these conversions aren't right for a certain area, like a key shopping street they're trying to protect, they can issue something called an Article 4 direction. This basically removes the shortcut, and you'd have to apply for full planning permission after all. So the lesson is, always check with your local council first. Okay, let's pull all of this together. What does this powerful new tool really mean for the future of our high streets? When you boil it all down, Class MA is doing something pretty clever. It's tackling two of the UK's biggest challenges at the very same time.
It's about bringing life and people back to our town centers while also creating new homes in places that already have the roads, transport, and shops we need.
That's why so many experts are calling it exactly that, one of the most impactful permitted development rights for high street regeneration today. It's a really significant policy shift that has enormous potential. So Class MA gives us this incredible tool for rapid change, the ability to fundamentally reshape our communities. The tool is now in our hands, and that leaves us with a huge question. What do we actually want our town centers of the future to look and feel like?